3 chilling fall horrors unearthed, terrifying tales to haunt your cold October nights. Emma sat in her dimly lit living room, the chill of the October air seeping through the window panes. Shadows flickered across the walls, cast by the dying glow of the kitchen light, and a primal fear clutched her heart. Alone in Maplewood, a neighborhood once filled with laughter, darkness had crept in on the rustling leaves. She could hear faint whispers outside her door, like the hushed conversations of specters plotting something sinister. Tonight she felt it. Something was wrong. The usual comfort of her routine had been replaced by an unsettling tension, a gnawing anxiety that her small world was unraveling. The friendly faces of neighbors that once waved from their manicured lawns now seemed to conceal secrets too ghastly to imagine. Every night while Jake worked his late shift at the grocery store, the rustling outside grew louder. Leaves crunched underfoot. Every crack echoed with unease, matching the pace of her racing heart. As she glanced out the window, her breath caught. A group huddled under the streetlight, their heads bowed together. Their whispers drifted to her like a chilling breeze, but she couldn't catch their words, only the sense that they were discussing something urgent, something terrifying. She squeezed her eyes shut, willing herself to think rationally, but the knot in her stomach twisted tighter. What could they be up to? Days passed, and Emma's paranoia deepened. When she woke each morning, she found new notices plastered across her front door. Neighborhood watch, stay alert. The phrases oozed with ominous tones. The exclamation points made her skin crawl. Good neighbors don't need warnings, do they? On edge and exhausted, she started digging into the stories of single mothers who had mysteriously vanished from Maplewood, echoes of distress mingling with the rustle of leaves. Each night while her son was out, she hunted for answers, sliding into the shadows to avoid the watchful eyes of her neighbors. They watched her movements closely, their once friendly gazes tinted with fear and a strange hostility. Why? What were they hiding? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Tension coiled tightly in her chest. The more she questioned, the deeper she sank into a vortex of fear. On one harrowing night, driven by despair and determination, she confronted her neighbors.
Shadows retreated, and Emma was met by faces masked in light, their smiles as hollow as the stories intertwining with her own. The whispered tales revealed a truth that chilled her to the bone, a folklore that spoke of a darkness thriving in the heart of Maplewood. As she learned the horrifying legacy behind their seemingly idyllic community, Emma felt her world tilt. The police were indifferent, each effort met with faced indifference that echoed like the cries of the women lost to the shadows. With Jake's friends pulling away, the sinister atmosphere enveloped him too. She knew he was unwittingly caught in this web, a prey to the dark game played by their neighbors. Would she be able to reach him in time? The night thickened, and her heart raced with dread. Inescapable footsteps echoed closer outside. Emma's heart thudded against her ribcage like a desperate drum. Shadows danced on her walls as she edged closer to the front door. What lay outside? A part of her screamed to retreat, to lock herself in with the only light left in her life, her son. But another part, one driven by fear and resolve, whispered to confront whatever darkness awaited her. Taking a deep, steadying breath, she grabbed the kitchen knife, its cold metal glinting ominously in the faint light. She pressed her ear against the door, straining to catch any hint of conversation. Were they still out there? The footsteps had stopped, leaving an eerie silence that suffocated her. With a surge of courage, Emma swung the door open. The night air hit her like an icy wave. Her gaze swept across the empty street. The streetlight flickered, casting a sickly glow over the cracked pavement. No sign of the huddled figures, just the rustle of leaves and the growing weight of the dark. Suddenly, a sharp crack echoed in the distance. She spun around, heart racing. Out of the corner of her eye, she caught movement. Something small and dark darted between the trees. A shadow, an animal? She squinted, but nothing emerged. The chill of dread wrapped around her, suffocating her resolve. "Jake!" she called out, pain lacing her voice as it was swallowed by the night. Panic surged. What if he was out there? What if those figures weren't just whispers in the wind, but something more, if they were involved in whatever sinister happenings devoured her neighborhood? She looked back toward the door, contemplating whether to flee back inside or take the plunge into her fears. As her hands trembled around the knife, she opted for the latter. She stepped off the porch and crept toward the trees that bordered her yard, their gnarled branches clawing at the air. Just keep moving, she urged herself, fighting the tightening grip of fear. Suddenly, she glimpsed a flash of white amid the dark foliage. A tattered fabric caught on a branch. Emma approached it. Her heart thudded louder now. It was a piece of clothing, a child's shirt. The sight sent ice racing through her veins.
This shirt looked far too familiar to belong to any neighbor's kid. As she reached for it, she noticed something beneath the shirt, something buried in the leaves. Her breath hitched in her throat as she pulled at the fabric, revealing a bracelet, the charm shaped like a tiny heart, engraved with a name. Only one child in Maplewood wore that bracelet. This was Ruby's. Panic kicked in as reality crashed down. Ruby had disappeared last year, and the whispers spreading through town had grown into a chilling cloud of fear. Emma felt as if she were drowning. What had happened to Ruby, and why was her shirt here, in her own yard? Dark thoughts spiraled in her mind. Should she run? Should she scream? Above all, she had to protect Jake. Her instincts screamed louder now. Time was of the essence. Then, a sound. A wayward whisper drifted through the night, separating itself from the rustling leaves like an echo of the past. Find him. It felt like a command, a chilling beckoning that chilled her to the bone. Emma froze, paralyzed by the weight of it. Was it meant for her, or was it a warning? She turned abruptly, sprinting back towards the house, her heart a fierce drumbeat against the growing shadows that swirled around her. With every step, she felt a darkness closing in, lurking just out of sight. She slammed the door behind her and locked it tight, her breathing ragged as the rush of adrenaline flooded her veins. "Jake," she shouted again, panic sweeping through her. Where was he? But silence swallowed her voice. Suddenly, a noise erupted from upstairs, a thud followed by a chilling giggle. Emma's blood turned to ice. This time it wasn't just her imagination. Based on what she'd uncovered, something unspeakable had come to claim her son. As she raced up the stairs, a piercing thought sliced through her. The whispers were growing louder, and they meant to take Jake next. The stairs creaked under Emma's trembling feet, each step echoing like a hammer on her heart. The thud and giggle from upstairs twisted in her mind, a sickly dance of dread. She gripped the knife tighter, the cold metal steadying her quaking hands, but it did little to comfort her racing thoughts. "Jake," she called again, voice almost cracking under the weight of sheer terror. The hallway stretched out ahead of her, shadows pooling in the corners, hungry shadows, waiting. Another giggle, this one sounded closer, choppy and eerie, like broken glass scraping against her sanity. Emma took a deep breath, forcing her feet to move despite the fear entwining itself around her ankles. She reached Jake's room, the door ajar. The dim glow from his nightlight flickered, its soft glow battling against the enveloping darkness. She pushed the door open slowly, dread amplifying with each inch as it creaked on its hinges. "Jake," she peered inside, her heart pounding like a frantic drumbeat, every instinct screaming for her to flee. The room was empty, save for the scattered toys and rumpled covers. Her son's bed was a mess, but there was no Jake, just a chilling stillness. Emma stepped inside, the air thick with an uneasy tension. "Please, be hiding," she whispered to herself, her voice barely a breath. Then she saw it, a small note, crumpled and lying on the floor by the bed. As she bent to pick it up, a sharp beckoning had her freeze again. "Find him," the whisper echoed, unmistakable now, fusing with the horrible reality. With shaking hands, she unfolded the paper. The scrawl was childlike but frantic. "Mommy, I'm sorry. I had to go." It sent a shiver down her spine, the words crawling into her chest like icy fingers. "Jake!" she screamed, panic ripping through her. The script seemed to pulsate with dread, almost alive. She felt the walls close in, shadows thickening. A gnawing thought swirled. Had Jake been taken? A noise behind her made her whirl. The closet door, a crack revealing darkness far deeper than just shadows. It quivered slightly. Emma felt every instinct scream at her to turn back, to run and barricade herself away. But she couldn't, not without knowing. Gathering what little courage was left, she stepped toward the closet, knife raised. As she reached for the handle, a low hiss slithered from within. "Find him," it urged again.
now laced with something sinister, something like laughter twisted into despair. With a deep breath, Emma yanked the door open, heart in her throat. Empty, just clothes swaying slightly, untouched by life. But a cold breeze swept out, chilling the air, whispering things she didn't understand. "Jake!" she choked out, but her voice only fueled the oppressive stillness. In that moment, she noticed something strange, a faint glow beneath the floorboards, pulsing with a beckoning light. It felt both soothing and terrifying, calling her, drawing her in. She knelt and pressed her ear to the ground. A muffled sound. Laughter. No. Whispers. The whispers were louder now, closer. "Find him." Suddenly, everything darkened. The light flickered out, plunging her into pitch black. Panic clawed at her throat as she felt the whispering presence, almost tangible. It enveloped her, chilling her to the bone. With a final surge of hopeless bravery, she slammed the knife into the floorboards, carving through the planks as fear propelled her every move. She had to find Jake, had to know if he was... Just then, a chorus of giggles erupted, almost too close, echoing in her ears. They seemed to surround her. "Mommy, help us!" Emma's breath hitched. In her resolve, she had not only unearthed shadows of her son, but countless lost spirits, trapped and beckoning her closer to the void. As she pulled free a piece of the board, a flash of movement caught her eye. Someone was standing behind her, just at the edge of the darkness. Jake! But the figure was too still, too silent.
And Emma could only tremble, knowing the shadows were closing in on yet another victim. The figure loomed, a silhouette against the darkness, a mere heartbeat away. Emma's breath came in sharp, ragged bursts, her heart hammering as dread coiled around her like a snake. Who was it? Was it Jake? Are you there, buddy?" Her voice trembled, barely a whisper, fighting to pierce through the thick silence. The only response came as a shudder racked the figure, sending a chill that seeped into Emma's bones. "Mommy," it murmured, the voice a cruel mimic of her child. "You found me." Before she could move, a gust of wind howled through the room, extinguishing the nightlight and igniting the shadows into wild, flailing shapes. Emma stumbled backward, her knife slipping from her hand and clattering to the floor, the metal thudding against the wood like a death knell. "No, no," Emma shouted, panic washing over her in waves. The laughter rose again, a cacophony of high-pitched giggles mingling with the low, sinister hissing. Her instinct screamed, urging her to run, to flee from this wretched place, but her feet felt glued to the ground beneath her. "Mommy, find us!" The figure beckoned, its arms stretching out, fingers elongated in ways that made her stomach knot. As if drawn by an invisible thread, it edged forward, revealing a face that flickered in and out of focus, a horrifying blend of Jake's features twisting with something far more malevolent. "Get away from me!" Emma shouted, groping for the knife on the floor. Her fingers wrapped around the hilt just as the thing lunged. It opened its mouth, and darkness spilled forth, whispering secrets of despair, of lost children and broken promises. Emma slashed out wildly, landing a blow that sent the figure reeling back into the shadows. A wretched scream echoed through the hallway, drowning out the giggles. But in that moment, the house shook, a low rumble of discontent, as if the very frame of the building reacted to the disruption. "Mommy, help us!" came the haunting plea, the shadows twisting, forming into lost, anguished faces, each one taunting her with a sorrow she couldn't possibly understand. Heart-bounding, Emma spun around, desperate to escape. She dashed towards the door, only to be met by the heavy darkness pressing back, as if the walls themselves were alive, closing in on her. The air grew thick, suffocating, with the stench of decay. She pushed against the door, but it wouldn't budge. Panic surged inside of her, and she started pounding frantically, her fists like a drum against wood. "Jake!" The name burst forth, a primal shout filled with terror and desperation. Suddenly, the door splintered open, the crack revealing a slender figure framed in darkness. Emma rushed through, into the hallway, but then halted. The stairs twisted before her, leading down into an abyss of deeper night.
The whispers grew louder, a cacophony of demanding her attention. "Come play. Come find us."
They danced on the edge of her sanity, clawing at her thoughts. She glanced back, the room a swirling vortex of darkness and light, teetering on the brink of something terrible. Frantic, Emma chose to run. Each step echoed her fear, each breath thick with dread. As she reached the bottom of the stairs, an icy hand wrapped around her ankle. She fell hard, the world spinning. Laughter permeated her fog of confusion, reckless and taunting. "Mommy!" It was Jake's voice, clear and sweet, but laced with something sinister. "Why did you leave us?" She turned to grasp at what held her, but there was nothing there, only shadows pulsing and swirling, leaping with nightmarish glee. In that moment, she knew the horror was only beginning. The house was alive, breathing, and she was not just hunted, she was caught in its web, sinking deeper into a darkness that promised to reveal more than she could ever endure. "Find him," the voice echoed around her, imploring, and Emma steeled herself, determination igniting even as the terror threatened to consume her whole. What waited for her in that darkness? Would she discover Jake, or would she be another lost soul, wrapped in shadows forever? With a final glance behind her, Emma took a breath, ready to plunge back into the depths of fear, not knowing what horrors lay ahead. The darkness throbbed, an entity alive with malice. Emma scrambled backward, her heart thumping violently against her ribcage. The air felt thick and acrid, each breath tasting of ash and despair. She wanted to believe this was just a nightmare, a sick, twisted nightmare. But the icy grip on her ankle, the shadows that danced on the walls, felt too real. "Mommy," the voice flickered again, a delicate thread of familiarity entwined with a dark taunt. "Why did you leave us?" Her mind raced. "I'm here, Jake, I didn't leave you." But the shadows only laughed, a symphony of voices that echoed within the hollowness of the house, each mocking her despair. Suddenly, from the depths of the staircase, a soft whimper broke the laughter. At first it was muted and hidden, buried under layers of torment, but it was followed by a desperate shriek that pierced through the chaos, cutting into Emma's heart like a knife. She had to find the source. "Jake," she called again, urgency twisting her words. With renewed determination, she pushed herself up from the floor. Instinctively, she started down the stairs, one cautious step at a time. The whispers became rhythmic beneath her feet. They pulsed like the beating of an unseen heart. The wooden steps creaked ominously, as if warning her to turn back, but she pressed on, the murmurs urging her further into the veil of night. "Find us before it's too late," they sang, a haunting lullaby promising salvation or doom. Just as she reached the bottom of the staircase, a chilling draft swirled around her, cutting through her thin shirt. She stood in what felt like an abyss, the air thicker now, constricting her lungs.
"Jake!" Her voice tremored, fighting against the oppressive silence that wrapped around her. A flicker of movement pulled her attention. At the far edge of the dimly lit room, she saw something shift, a shadow darting behind an abandoned toy chest, its outline unmistakably small and childlike. "Mommy!" It was him. The joyous cries, the laughter, her Jake, or a decoy. Emma lunged forward, the floorboards groaning beneath her frantic steps. But as she reached the chest, a metallic shriek burst from behind her. She whirled around, only to meet an expandable darkness spreading like a black tide, oozing and spilling across the floor toward her. Don't leave us!" The shadows twisted, forming grotesque specters, each face a caricature of despair. Their eyes glimmered with hatred and sorrow, battling for Emma's attention. She felt their cold fingers reaching for her, pulling her into the deep. "Jake, I'm right here!" she screamed, desperation cracking her voice as she fought against the weight of the encroaching darkness. Her heart raced as she envisioned the smiling face of her son, begging her to find him. The chest rattled violently, causing Emma to glance back. "No!" The face of the creature lurking beneath the chest twisted in rage, a monster formed of her greatest fears and doubts. It spoke directly to her mind, each word twisting like a blade. "Leave him! Join us!" Emma felt the pull intensify, the shadows gnawing at her edges. With a fierce roar, she lunged toward the toy chest and yanked it open. Inside, darkness pulled like ink, swirling to hide the very thing she sought. "Jake!" she cried, keeling into the abyss. But there was no Jake there, only the echo of 1,000 lost voices drowning in despair. As a horrifying shriek erupted from her behind, Emma grasped the edge, heart bounding, realizing the truth. This was no ordinary game. It was a trap. If she didn't escape now, she might never find Jake or see the light again. "Find him," the shadowy figure from earlier hissed once more, its whisper darkening the air. "Or become him." Time felt frozen. Emma's breath hitched as she teetered on the edge of falling into darkness or pulling her son from its depths. And as she felt the last vestiges of light slipping through her fingers, she made a choice. But was it the right one? Emma's heart screamed in rhythm with the shadows, a chaotic percussion of fear drowning everything else. She clasped the edge of the toy chest, anchoring herself to the reality she knew was fraying. The darkness writhed like a living thing, inching closer, hungry, insatiable. "Fight it, Emma," she thought. "You have to be strong." But the words felt brittle and empty, swallowed by the suffocating gloom. Memories of laughter, sunshine, and safety flitted through her mind, but they were fleeting images, dissolving before she could grasp them. The shadows coiled tighter, soothed by her despair.
"Leave him to us," they chorused again, a symphony of voices merging into one torturous echo. Screams resonated in her ears, screams from children lost, from souls ensnared in unendurable agony. Her grip tightened on the chest, muscles straining against the weight of weakness pressing inward. "Jake!" she cried again, desperation clawing at her throat. "I'm coming!" But the only answer was the hissing laughter, rising like smoke, wrapping around her throat until it burned. They delighted in her struggles, the madness ignited by darkness strangling her resolve. Emma thrust her hand into the chest. Cold, biting darkness enveloped her arm like a vice. For a moment she trembled, contemplating surrender. What if the shadows were a release? What if she let go, gave in, and became one with the darkness? No! The thought surged through her like wildfire, raw and unyielding. She gripped the edge of reality and yanked back, wrenching her arm free of the abyss. She staggered backward, breathless, and gasped in horror as Jake's voice punctuated the silence once more, a flicker of hope, yet tinged with desperation. "Mommy, please!" She spun, heart racing as she spotted him, barely visible amid the curling shadows, his small figure huddled against the wall, eyes wide and glistening with unshed tears. "Jake!" Emma surged forward, heart giving her wings, the shadows hissing angrily as she escaped their cold, clingy grasp. But the closer she got, the more the darkness surged back, eager to ensnare Jake, to bury him alive. "No, not my baby!" Emma lunged, casting herself between Jake and the monstrous tide. She felt the darkness claw at her heels, and she dug her feet in, teeth clenched, gaze fixed on her son. The air buzzed with tension, the walls vibrating with malevolent energy. A tangible barrier formed around her as she reached out to Jake. "Take my hand!" They locked eyes, and for a fleeting second, they saw each other, hearts intertwining. But then the shadows leaped, engulfing them in an embrace of cold fury. Emma screamed, fighting against the overwhelming urge to succumb. The shadows twisted into grotesque shapes, each contorting face pleading with her to accept defeat. "Join us," they begged, filling her mind with minds that weren't her own, flooding her with memories of loss, despair, and longing. Emma felt herself being stretched thin, her resolve wavering. In that moment of desperation, she remembered the glimmer she'd seen in Jake's eyes, the love that had always been their tether. With horrific strength, Emma plunged her hand into the cold depths of the darkness, feeling through the shadows for the warmth of her son. Then a searing light broke through the hem of obscurity, illuminating the room in blinding brilliance. Emma gasped as the screams turned to wails, shattering like glass. The shadows flinched away, recoiling with terror, their wretched forms disintegrating into wraith-like wisps. "Mommy, hurry!"
The urgency in Jake's voice snapped her out of the trance. Emma reached and grasped his hand. The warmth surged back, grounding her amidst the chaos, and they pulled together, fighting against the remnants of darkness. But as they began to rise, something deep within the shadows stirred. A low growl rumbled, an ominous warning echoing in the air around them. "Not yet," it hissed, darker than midnight, weaving through the remnants of light. "Please, let us go," Emma shouted, panic igniting her words. But the shadows were not done. As she stepped forward, hand in hand with Jake, the room began to tremble, the walls quaking as whispers rose to a deafening crescendo. Emma's breath came in ragged gasps, and dread crept up her spine. Suddenly, the ground buckled beneath them, and they were taken, the darkness swallowing them whole, yanking them back into its hungry grasp. "Mommy!" Jake screamed. Then silence engulfed them, thick and foreboding, and in the stillness, a promise lingered, echoing in the void. "Find the truth before it finds you." The cold grip of darkness enveloped them, a smothering blanket that stretched on endlessly. Emma's heart raced, pounding against the walls of her chest as fear pierced through her very being. She felt Jake's small hand grip hers tighter, his warmth a flickering candle in a suffocating night. "Mommy, I can't see you," Jake whimpered, panic lacing his voice. "Stay close, Jake." Emma fought to keep her voice steady, but it trembled like a fragile leaf in a storm. All around them, whispers swirled, tales of lost souls echoing in her ears, curling like smoke through the thick, oppressive gloom. "Help us! Join us!" the phantom voices begged, slithering under her skin. They dripped with sorrow and desperation, a chorus of those who had given in. Emma gritted her teeth, pushing back the tide of despair flooding her thoughts. "Don't listen to them!" she shouted, holding tightly to Jake. "We will fight!" As they moved forward, the darkness was alive and malicious. It shifted, rolled, and tightened like a serpent poised to strike. Each step felt heavier than the last, the air thicker and more suffocating. A low growl rumbled nearby, vibrating the ground beneath them. Emma's skin prickled with dread. "Did you hear that?" she whispered, her voice barely more than a breath. Jake nodded, eyes wide and glistening in the inky blackness. "Mommy, I'm scared," he whispered, squeezing her hand. "I know, sweetheart, but I'm right here." Without warning, the ground lurched again, and Emma stumbled, nearly losing her grip. Panic rushing back, she steadied herself, looking around desperately for a sign, anything to lead them away from the lurking shadows. Then she saw it, a faint glow ahead, a gold shimmer cutting through the black like a beacon. "Jake, look!" They surged forward, propelled by hope, each step feeling like a breakthrough against the crushing despair. The light pulsed gently, promising sanctuary.
But the shadows reacted violently, convulsing and hissing. "No! You can't leave!" The voices rose in anger, filling the air with chaos. "Join us!" As they neared the glow, Emma felt Jake start to pull away, entranced by the shimmering light. She yanked him back, fear like ice coursing through her veins. "Don't! You don't know what it is!" The ground beneath shifted again, jagged edges cutting into her shoes. "Please, don't take my son!" The plea ripped from her throat. Something shifted in the light. A figure, a woman, pale and radiant, emerged from the glow. Emma's breath hitched as she recognized the warmth in her smile, the echo of a memory long submerged. "Mommy?" Jake whispered, his innocent curiosity lighting up the dark. "Run!" Emma shrieked, yanking Jake away just as the woman's smile morphed, twisting into something sinister. "No!" the voice roared, filled with fury and desperation. Suddenly, shadows surged, wrapping around Emma and Jake with brutal force, pulling them apart. "Jake!" Emma screamed, reaching desperately for her son as darkness encroached like a tide, whispering all its tempting lies. "Mommy!" Jake cried, his small body tugged back toward the light. In that instant, Emma felt herself fraying, a strand ready to snap. "I won't lose you!" Her voice was raw with emotion as she launched herself forward, diving into the fray. With a determination forged from love, she pulled him back, their hands clasped tightly. Yet the shadows fought back, growing more monstrous by the second. Their howls filled the air as they battled, clawing at the light that pushed forth. And then, through the chaos, a whisper, softer than a breath, floated through her mind. "Find the truth." Emma's heart sank. What truth? She thought, but there was no time for answers. The ground beneath them cracked, fissures opening like mouths waiting to swallow them whole. "Jake, hold on!" As they surged forward once more, the light flickered, wavering, as if it too was losing hope. Emma glanced at Jake, his face set in determination despite the chaos. But there was something waiting in the shadows too, waiting for the moment their resolve wavered. Then it hit her, a memory, a face, something so familiar yet broken, twisted by dark fears. "Jake," she murmured, realizing the deeper connection. Was the truth about to reveal itself?
With one final push, they leapt into the shrinking light. But as they broke through, Emma could feel the darkness tighten around her, still unwilling to let go. A voice echoed behind them, deep and sinister. "You can't escape. The truth is yet to come." What awaited them just beyond that light? The light enveloped them, momentarily blinding, warming against the cold fear that clung to their skin. Emma squinted, her breath coming in ragged gasps. They stumbled forward, disoriented. She blinked against the brilliance, her heart pounding in time with the unsettling chorus echoing in her ears. "Where are we?"
Jake's voice trembled, trembling through the thick air. The glow dimmed, revealing a twisted landscape, an eerie emptiness stretching into the distance. Gnarled trees loomed like watchful sentinels. Shadows danced in their skeletal branches, flickering ominously. "Stay close, Jake," she said, more a command than a comfort. The light had protected them, but it felt wrong, like a thin veil draped over something monstrous, lurking just out of reach. As she scanned their surroundings, Emma noticed a path leading deeper into the woods. "This way," she breathed, hesitating only slightly before stepping onto the narrow trail. The moment they moved forward, the shadows began to swirl anew, restless and alive. The whispers echoed louder, layered voices pleading, crying, "Help us, find the truth." A chill ran down Emma's spine. What truth? Each step they took felt heavier, laden with the weight of unseen eyes watching them. "Mommy, I don't like this." Jake tugged at her shirt, his small frame trembling beside her. "I know, honey, I know," she murmured, forcing a smile that felt too thin. "We can do this." But she wasn't sure. Each crack of a twig sent her heart racing, and the wind howled, carrying faint laughter, as if the woods themselves were mocking them. Suddenly, a rustling sound broke through the suffocating silence. Emma froze, pulling Jake close. Out of the thicket, a figure emerged, cloaked in rags, face hidden beneath a tattered hood. It halted, hovering in the dim light, skeletal fingers stretching forward. "Join us," it rasped, the voice a guttural whisper that sent shivers racing down Emma's skin. "You can all be free." "Get back," Emma yelled, tugging Jake tighter to her side. The cloaked figure seemed to waver, eyes glowing like embers beneath its hood. All around them, the shadows surged forward, coiling like vipers ready to strike. Emma's breath quickened, the crushing weight of despair threatening to swallow her whole. "Mommy, I'm scared," Jake whimpered, and the shadows responded, hissing like steam escaping from a pot, a furious reaction that sent the cold creeping deeper into Emma's bones. "Stay behind me," she barked. Then a desperate decision flared inside her. "We fight! We have to fight back!" Gathering her strength, she pushed forward, an urgent force propelling her. The figure recoiled, the flames in its eyes flickering with surprise. Emma felt a surge of power. Fear shifted into determination, a fierce blaze of maternal instinct igniting deep within. "Let go of my son!" she screamed, lunging at the cloaked shadow. In that instant, a surge of warmth emanated from her core, illuminating the darkness around them. But the figure was undeterred, lunging forward with a speed that took Emma's breath away. It opened its mouth wide, revealing twisted teeth that glinted in the half-light. As the darkness pressed in, Emma felt Jake's grip loosened, and panic clawed at her throat. "No!"
She screamed, eyes wild as her son began to slip back again into the shadowy depths, the whispers swirling around him. "Help us! Join us!" they called, the morning wails crashing like waves against a shore. Emma threw herself at Jake, but the cloaked figure was upon them, grappling for control, and the shadows surged, trying to pull them apart. The ground trembled beneath them, rumbling like a beast awakening from a deep slumber. "Find the truth, or be lost forever," the voice echoed, resonating through the trees, threatening to drown them both. In that moment, a shard of clarity pierced through the voice's chaos. The truth? The answer clawed at her mind, but it felt unreachable, like a dream fading upon waking. With a final heave, Emma turned to the shadows around them, summoning every ounce of courage. "We do not join you!" she shouted with a conviction that cracked the very air. But as she braced for impact, the shadows roared back, a tidal wave of darkness ready to engulf them. What truth awaited if they broke through? Would it save them or seal their fate? Emma felt time dangling by a thread. The shadows pressed closer, breathing down her neck. What was about to break through the darkness? The shadows converged, their energy crackling like electricity in the suffocating air. Emma's heart raced, each thump reverberating against her ribcage as the darkness seemed to expand, pulsing alive around them. It felt as if the very ground beneath her was swallowing hope, pulling her and Jake toward an abyss that promised nothing but despair.
Hold on to me,
she cried out, clutching Jake's small hand in hers, squeezing until she feared she would hurt him. The ground quaked again, as if something ancient was trying to wake beneath the forest floor. The whispers rose in pitch and volume, an anguished symphony of lost souls tugging at her sanity. "Join us!" they wailed in unison, and Emma's resolve faltered just for a moment. Then she remembered the warmth that had sparkled within her, that brief flicker of power. It felt like it had come from a place beyond fear, an instinct laced with motherly love that nothing would ever take away. She clenched her jaw, forcing her panic down deep. "I will not let you take my son!" As if answering her defiance, the shadows howled in response, the sound a gurgle of pain and malice that rattled her bones. Emma pushed forward, determined to protect Jake. But the cloaked figure lunged again, its gnarled fingers curling toward her throat, tearing through the warmth of the light that surrounded them. Emma ducked at the last moment, tumbling onto the forest floor, the cold earth shocking her senses. "Mommy!" Jake's voice cracked, panic leaping in his eyes as he trembled on the edge of the thickening shadows. "Jake!" she gasped, scrambling back up just in time to see the figure shift, closer and more threatening. The light around her flickered, as if the very fabric of reality was unraveling.
Everything seemed to warp, the trees bending grotesquely and colors bleeding into shadows. In that fevered state, Emma realized that they were surrounded by the remnants of the Forsaken, the trapped souls who could not rest. Their faces emerged briefly amongst the shadows, contorted in expressionless pain, eyes listless yet pleading. "Help us find the truth," they echoed, stretching their fingers toward her like dark vines trying to ensnare her. "Stop!" Emma shouted, summoning whatever strength she could muster. Instead of running, she stepped forward, turning her back to the malevolent figure. "I will help you!" The shadows hesitated, recoiling as if they didn't understand this unexpected response. Emma took a deep breath, channeling everything she felt, her fear for Jake, her anger, and a glimmer of hope. "Tell me what I need to do." A murmur rippled through the shadows, a riddle wrapped in sorrow. "Awaken that which is buried, face the darkness, seek the truth, or be lost forever." The figure, enraged, lunged again, but this time Emma stood firm. The shadows coiled, swirling at her feet, gathering around like storm clouds. A flash of the truth burned in her mind, tantalizing and terrifying. What truth? What did she need to awaken? And then the ground quaked even louder, cracking like thunder. Gnarled roots burst upwards from the earth, twisting and curling like serpents. The cloaked figure, faced with the shifting terrain, hesitated, its edge dwindling against her conviction. Suddenly, a piercing shriek split the air, the sound of something being torn apart. Emma's heart froze. She turned back to see Jake, trembling but resolute. His eyes shimmered with something stronger than fear, fierce determination. "Mommy, I won't leave you!" "Jake, stay back! It's dangerous!" she shouted, but it was too late. The shadows started swirling wildly, angry at being challenged. "Find the truth," the whispers crescendoed, merging into unsettling laughter, each tone sharper than the last. And beneath her feet, something shifted. "Help us find the truth before it's too late." The cries grew frantic, a chorus of desperation echoing through the woods, pulling at Emma's soul. As she edged forward, a bone-chilling realization struck her. To save Jake, to save herself, she might have to confront her own darkest fears, the hidden truths she had kept buried. "What is it?" Emma whispered into the storm of shadows, her voice trembling. But what she found in that moment threatened to shatter her very foundation. The trees shook, the shadows whispered louder, and the ground fell away. Could she face what lay ahead? The answers were lurking just out of sight, but did she truly want to uncover them? The shadows rippled, twisting tighter, ready to consume them both. Then, just as Emma thought she would be swallowed whole, something else stirred in the darkness, a new, deeper terror waiting to be unleashed. What dreaded truth was she about to awaken?
And would it finally release them, or bind them forever to the horror that lay ahead? The shadows trembled, resonating with her thoughts, feeding off her fears. Emma struggled against the tide of dread engulfing her. Whatever is buried here, whatever haunts us,
I will find it, she shouted, her voice echoing. The darkness hissed, a cacophony of anguished whispers rising to meet her declaration. Find the truth, they implored, merging with the air, wrapping around her resolve like chilling tendrils. Fear coursed through her veins, but she pressed on, dragging Jake beside her. The shadows twisted and churned, groping at their ankles as they advanced, each step forward a defiant act of love. Then she spotted it, a flicker, a memory, buried deep beneath the layers of darkness. Look, Jake, she pointed to an ethereal glow pulsating near the tangled roots. That's our way out. Determination surged within her as she began to dig. It's time to face this together. With frantic hands, Emma clawed at the earth, unearthing a small shimmering object. The moment she touched it, a wave of light enveloped them, and the whispers turned into anguished cries. No, you can't. Laughter erupted, swirling in a frenzy around them. The cloaked figure howled, feral anger erupting in response to Emma's defiance. This will be your end. You can't escape the truth. But Emma's heart raced with fury. You don't own us. I'll fight for my son. The light brightened, reverberating through the shadows like a beacon. She held the object close, a locket, weathered but familiar. The warmth radiated from it, igniting memories of laughter and love between her and Jake. Inside the locket, she saw a faded picture of them, smiling, happy. Mommy, it's you and me. Jake's eyes sparkled with recognition, and not just of the locket. Yes, darling, this is what we need to remember. Emma felt a surge of courage, urged on by the innocence of her son's voice. As they clasped the locket together, the shadows pulsated violently, screaming in despair as the light shattered their icy grip. No, you will join us. You can't escape. The cloaked figure lunged, but Emma held firm against the escalating chaos. Find the truth, echoed in her mind, stronger than before. Let it in. It wasn't just about the darkness. It was about understanding the love that had once existed here. Could she face the pain of the past? Remember, Jake, she instructed, surging with determination. Our love is stronger than this darkness. With each heartbeat, the light grew brighter, whispering to the lost souls trapped within the shadows. It's time to release you. For once we find the truth together. The shadows howled, but their cries began to dissolve, faces appearing momentarily, whispering secrets of longing and regret before fading away, like them finding their way home. Hold on, Emma cried, and the glow erupted into a brilliant flash, engulfing everything in pure radiance.
She felt trembling. The shadows almost seemed to recoil, lifting the suffocating weight from around her. Suddenly, everything lurched. Emma found herself on the ground, the air cool and crisp. The fading shadows dissipated into nothingness, and as they did, the whispers quieted, turning to soft sighs of relief. Mommy, Jake breathed, clinging to her. They were out, free from the chaos of darkness. Emma hugged him tightly, tears mingling with joy, and they had faced the storm and learned the dreadful truths woven into their lives. As they stood together, the locket radiated softly in the moonlight, a reminder of the love they shared, a love that would always bridge the chasms of despair. No longer bound by fear, Emma turned to the now silent forest behind them. Go peacefully, lost ones, she whispered into the stillness, her heart breaking for those spirits trapped in shadows. You are free now. In that moment, the night air felt lighter, truth transforming the remnants of sorrow into something hopeful. Emma and Jake walked away from the dark remnants of Maplewood, hand in hand, ready to embrace the dawn. Together, they would forge new paths, always remembering their strength, love, and the truths that had set them free. And so, with the first light of day breaking over the horizon, they stepped into a future unshackled by shadows, united in a bond that could withstand the fiercest storm.